It's good to be together. We are continuing our discussion around just some of the aspects. We started, and maybe if I just go back and create a little bit of context, because if I just go back a couple of days, what started stimulating some really good conversation was what kind of questions are we asking ourselves in this time period that we have. It seems as if we've been given this opportunity to examine ourselves, to reflect, to think about our past, to evaluate where we are now, and to think about where we want to be. And this question about who am I, how are things changing about my work, the people that I interact with, how I interact, how I work, and does that affect my identity? Does it shape how I see myself and the person that I am, not only am, but am becoming? And so this question then about who am I and what am I learning and how do I grow in this period? You know, we got talking about language, about learning a new language and technology, Zoom, video conferencing. This platform is actually a new language that we are learning, discovering, and becoming more and more fluent in. And then as we learn this language, what prompted my thinking about today's discussion is, if you're going to be speaking a language, and as we are now interacting with people, when you express an idea, when you share an opinion, when you actually sometimes choose to maybe even be vulnerable and truly authentic, that doesn't always mean that the other person on the other side, whoever that person is or group of people, are going to accept it. They may push back. They may, and I've used the word, if you got the email, you know, we'd love to use this word feedback, and I think feedback is a great word because it's a very positive word. But sometimes it takes the sting out of the reality. And the sting is that it's criticism, that I am being criticized. And what does that do to us? So that's the question that I really wanted to talk about today. I'll bring up my screen and we can look at some of the slides around that. But just I'd like to just first of all, just get your sort of first impressions and first thinking about what is criticism to you, and what is your instinctive reaction to criticism?
Great, thanks, Lee. I'm actually going to just try and prompt people. I see Trevor's wanting to get going as well. So, Trev, if you want to have a chat, and then I just want to.
Yeah, I just wanted to criticize Steve. You must get the toilet bowl for this session, Steve. Just stand up a bit. Have a chat there. No, I'm criticizing you because you didn't follow my chat. Move your laptop screen or whatever it is.
Steve, you're muted, so we're not actually hearing you.
Sorry.
There we go.
I tried to respond, but then this presentation came up and it took the chat screen away. But there you are.
Good. Steve, so any thoughts on what Lee's opened with? I mean, obviously you're a first timer on this morning, which is fantastic and welcome, but any thoughts in terms of what Lee's just said?
Yes, I've been following some of the stuff on LinkedIn. Most of what is said here in the morning seems to flow through to LinkedIn as well, which is good, because my mornings is a little full and I cannot be here all the time. Even this morning, I've got some other stuff to tend to. But I love the idea that we spend time on finding ourselves, our own identity, because not only our strength, but also the authority that we have in life, the influence, is directly rooted in our identity and the strength of that identity, or the authenticity of the identity. So yes, I love the conversation.
Fantastic, thanks, Steve. I want to actually just bounce across to one of our other new participants, which is Devin. Devin, questions and feedback are your business, so you must be amused that we've kicked off with that this morning. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it was my first note, Lee. See, I was listening. Yeah, no questions. I think it's really important that we constantly question everything that we do. But at the same time, if we are criticized for something, I think what a lot of people do is they get defensive. So when somebody comes back at you in a defensive manner, we shouldn't be surprised, but we've got to try and win their confidence so that they take their, so we take their views and give them a positive message back, and then once the trust is gained, and I think with this new technology, I think it is a lot about trust and about confidence, not only a confidence in ourselves, but a confidence in using that technology because it's exceptionally powerful.
Great, thanks, Devin. Herman, I see you've got your hand up. Would you like to unmute yourself and go for it?
Yeah, talking about criticism, I see it from two kind of angles. The moment it becomes personal, I would definitely refute that as justified. If I'm criticized for a result, but not listen, you are stupid, that's a criticism I will not accept. But if somebody would then reflect on what I did wrong and criticize that factually, that is something I can identify with and can have a conversation around it. But if, as I said, if criticism is just ending up in a kind of a judgment, I'm leaving the scene. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Herman. Cecile, would you like to say good morning and then comment on what's been said so far?
That was quite an interesting thing to say, that if someone criticizes you, just you, then I'm like a water off a duck's back. But it would be helpful, maybe it's a skill to learn, to say, okay, you've criticized, but maybe just expand on what you criticized about, the action or the words or the whatever, and then it's probably easier to explain why you did that action or why you said what you said. Although my husband always says I'm justifying the things that he criticizes me for.
Okay, that's interesting, Cecile. Thank you. Frans, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, look, I'm probably one of the guilty ones that's easily offended when somebody says something because I don't know what they mean necessarily. And what I find interesting on social media these days is, it's almost like a leveler. Nobody knows you, or very few people know you. And you need to almost prove yourself to everybody that what you're saying carries weight and is of value. So yeah, social media I think is a leveler. Prove yourself, and unfortunately too many people go by what you say actually proves that you are a fool. So be careful of that.
Unmute myself, sorry there. Thanks, Frans. Yeah, I think one of the problems with social media sometimes is people think that it gives them a carte blanche to criticize and say what they like, and I think it comes back to what we were talking about yesterday in terms of know that you're actually being a role model to somebody and see that the way you interact with people, especially on social media, is true to who you are and not not giving you just the scope to be critical with anonymity. Ian, you actually spoke yesterday about ego. I think this plays very much into the ego space as well. Do you want to chat?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that. The fact that criticism is very closely aligned to judgment. We are by nature very judgmental in general in terms of things that other people do, and therefore we kind of we criticize based on our judgment. And for me, obviously, Yeah, ego is a big thing. For me, it's always been a challenge, and that's what I need to keep under check. Because with an ego, of course, any criticism or anything that's perceived as criticism is something that you now take personally, and you obviously defend your position because of your ego. So it's very closely aligned. So for me, it's being conscious and very aware of the fact that I have to stop and that moment and reflect before I actually respond, because of this ego that I have that naturally puts me in a position of defending my situation and trying to get one over somebody else. But yeah, so it's an interesting parallel between the way we judge people, our egos, and how we actually manage criticism.
Great, thanks, Ian. Herman, if you don't mind, I'd just like to get to some of the other folk who haven't had a chance to comment first.
Not a problem.
Guy, would you like to pick up there?
Morning, all. Yeah, what's very interesting, we should be criticizing less, in my opinion, and we should be looking more at ourselves and how we're trying to do better as individuals, and through us doing better, setting better examples, and using the right sort of language, etc. Especially at some of our ages where we've got grey hair, we shouldn't actually really worry about criticism. You know, I believe that we should have a dogged determination to succeed, irrespective of what other people think, say, or do. And that's a quote by Paul J. Mayer of the Success Motivation Institute. So me personally, I don't care if I'm criticized or whatever. I don't really give a damn. That's just how it is. And that person who's criticizing needs to look deeper in themselves. Cool. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Guy. Jasper, do you want to have a quick comment on that?
Probably in line with what Guy was moving towards, is to say that I think, and Ian said it takes no brain cells to criticize. Anyone can just, it almost sometimes people do it to make they hope to make the other person feel smaller so that they can hopefully be bigger. But some criticism or positive feedback, like Leah started off to say, I think that's good, but I want to say it takes more effort to say what is the good thing and try and modify behavior, because what you keep on emphasizing, if you keep telling a guy, listen, you smoke, I don't like you smoking, he's not going to stop. Or, you know, whatever is the negative behavior. But maybe find ways to emphasize what do you like about it, not the smoking so much, but what do you like about that person, and try and modify behavior. So I don't have easy answers on this. I'm just saying it takes more effort to find the good in a person and emphasize that than to harper on what is wrong.
Right, thanks. I suppose, Tselo, would you like to have a quick comment on that? I think you're the only one who hasn't spoken yet.
Morning, everybody. Basically, on my end, the way that I look at it, it's a bit of what Guy is saying, and it definitely touches on what Herman was saying as well. So I genuinely believe that if you reach a stage where you accept yourself so much that it really doesn't matter other people's opinion, because we teach, we coach, we deal with a lot of people, and you quickly realize that you can't own what's in somebody else's head. You really can't. If you're talking to 20 people, they are hearing 20 different messages. That's just how it works when you're used to dealing with people, you know. People hear according to where they are sitting. So I don't worry too much about what's happening in somebody else's head. I focus more on just doing me, you know. And it really touches on what Herman was saying as well, because criticism is kind of in two ways for me. So there are people that will ask you a question, and there are people that will question you. I cannot have time for people that are questioning what I'm doing. But if you're asking me a genuine question, that you are giving me positive feedback, that's something that I can look into, that I can maybe incorporate in what I'm doing. And to that point as well, I kind of also think it also has to do a lot with relationships. There are some people that I trust so much that I'm accountable to, people like my coach, my mentor, things like that. With them, their criticism is very important to me because it's part of my learning, it's part of my growing. But when other people criticize what I'm doing, I don't really care that much. I'll listen because I genuinely want to grow as a person. But if you're questioning and you're not asking a question, it means you already have an answer in your head, and there's nothing really much that I want to do about it. I'm not going to influence what's already in your head, you know? I think that's just my take about it.
Great, thanks, Ella. I think some really good points there. Steve, I see your hand up, but let me just switch over to Lee quickly and just see where she's at with this.
Yeah, so maybe obviously the conversation is evolving around that, but I guess I'm challenging our. I agree that we don't want our self-worth to be affected by what other people think of us, so that we kind of flip-flop depending on what other people are saying, and we somehow have to be impacted because this person doesn't like us, or they're saying something that we critical about us. But I also want to know whether we can take any comment, even if it is badly meant, even if it is coming from a person's own ego or own reaction, and turn it around so that it helps us to at least have a moment to reflect on how true is that, how relevant is that, is there anything in this comment that I could take on board that just changes my view of how I'm coming across, or how other people view me, or something about myself that I might need to change. In other words, everything and anything that anybody says becomes food to learn.
Great, thanks Lee for that. Steve, you had your hand up, you took it down again. Do you still want to comment on that? Steve, you with us? No? Okay, Trevor, you were looking to get in earlier. Do you want to pick up there?
Well, I see Herman's got his hand raised there, perhaps just in response to Lee.
Well, one thing, if criticism is malicious, I'm not willing to listen. If it's a personal attack and judgmental and ego-driven, I just shut up. I will accept constructive criticism anytime. I'm willing, if Trevor says, Herman, I've seen you doing something, let's sit down and have a conversation, I'm willing to listen. If Trevor comes up and says, Herman, you're the biggest idiot I've ever met, I walk away and end of story. Thank you.
But if I can come in?
Trevor, yeah, you can. Ian's also got his hand up, so yeah, quick word there, Trevor, and then hand over to Ian.
Well, mine's not a quick word, so let Ian go.
May I come in? It'd be good to hear from Davin and that also, obviously.
Just a quick comment from myself. I think the key thing is a filter. We need to filter out. It's like all the fake news potentially that's going around. If you just look at politics and everything at the moment, the biggest challenge that we have is filtering out what is absolutely true, or at least true for us. Remember, everything in life is a perception. So we have our personal perception, our political perceptions, and our objective perceptions. But what I'm just trying to say is it's one of the hardest things to learn, but we need to filter.
Ian, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, picking up on what Lee was saying, in order for us to do that, Lee, I think what we have to do is we have to catch ourselves between thought and action. So the moment we think something, unfortunately, when it comes to criticism, for instance, we react. And it's that moment between thought and action that allows us to reflect and analyze and say, well, actually, is there something here that I could learn? Is some sort of criticism, some sort of comment that's been made that I can convert into something positive that can actually affect what I'm doing, can help me. So I think you're absolutely right. But the key is how we're able to control ourselves between thought and action.
Great, thanks, Ian. I see Steve just put up a quick message. He's had to shoot off, but he just made a quick comment here. He said, my take on criticism is that before we criticize anyone, make sure it is edifying. So that was his comment. So thanks, Steve. Okay, Trevor, do you want to take up there?
Yeah, so I've been one ever since the day dot that has always been an initiator of projects, events, concepts, and I learned very early on that you're not going to please everyone in everything that you do. You are always going to be criticized by someone somewhere. And especially here in South Africa, you know, I recall doing this Lone Hill Security Initiative. I was criticized from pillar to post in what I actually did. But I had learned so much about being able to take criticism that I completely ignored those that were just criticizing but sitting on the post. And I recognized that when you're an initiator of concepts, projects, new businesses, you are always going to have those critics who will try and pull you back, and they do it with the best of intentions, but you have to keep driving forward. So you've got to be a lot stronger than the group of critics that might be collectively dragging you down. Otherwise, we'll get nowhere. So as an initiator, I turn around and say, criticism, so what? But what I do, and this is what I think Lee is trying to get through to, is I certainly take heed of the criticism because I'm sensitive. So even though I like to ignore the criticism, it's still so sensitive that I will think about it deeply. But then in most instances, I will still move forward rather than sit on the fence. So I hope that gives some insight from an aggressive initiator such as myself.
Great, thanks, Trev. Lee, do you want to pick up there?
Yeah, I think that that certainly for me kind of just holds the two in balance, is that if criticism is going to keep you stuck and you're not able to move forward because you're trying to please, you know, everybody all the time, you know, I think leadership definitely requires a thick skin. That you know you have to plow ahead because you know Edward de Bono uses this concept of the black hat that there, and I think this is what we need to bear in mind, is that the black hat is the hat that checks what are the risks, what are the dangers, it's the negative, how do we manage the problems. And I think we default to black hat thinking because we are nervous and afraid ourselves, and we are more likely to see the risks and the dangers and the problems than we are to see the possibilities. And so those people who are forging ahead, you know, are more likely to have to really dig their heels in and move ahead, but also to be sensitive to, is there anything that I could be doing differently? And maybe I'll move on to the next slide because I think it speaks to that. This is the final slide, is it is about going, so when you have something that you care about, something that you is a vision, a goal, that you go with it with all your heart. That is, and maybe I think this is what Herman is saying. I'm going in this direction. I'm making things happen, and I'm not going to let criticism hold me back.
Great, thanks, Lee. I think let's just go through the group again and comment on that, and then I think we're almost ready to wrap up. So, Cecile, would you like to kick off?
Sorry, anyone that knows me knows that I'm always in with all feet and all. But yeah, maybe one should actually do it more and not be afraid of people think, oh, you are stupid when you always all in with all enthusiasm, whether it's good things or bad things. So maybe one should be more mindful of doing it to all the things in your life. Yeah, that's my bit.
Great, thanks, Cecile. Devin, do you want to have a quick last word there?
I think just from my side, I think all of us are in a unique position right now, because most of us have always all been self-employed and sort of been self-motivated individuals. So I think the rest of the world is going to play catch up with us. You know, there's a lot of people that have hidden away in large companies. You know, Discovery the other day, they had 8,000 staff. Netcare had 5,000 staff that they had to send home for the first time to work from home. And I think they are the ones that are going to grapple with us much more than we are. So, you know, I think in terms of mentorships, you know, I think we've not, you know, I'm speaking amongst some successful people, but you know, we have a part to play, and you know, it's all about self-belief. I really believe that you know, Trevor said, and I've known Trevor as a neighbor as well, we've all been criticized, and you know, we're going to come out on top at the end of the day. You know, oil on water, water off a duck's back, all of those things. So really good discussion. Thanks, guys.
Great, thanks, Devin. Cecile, I see you put your hand up. You want to just add on to your comment quickly, and then I'll move on.
Sorry, so talking about Discovery, my PA's daughter works at Discovery, and she told me yesterday they have not been paid their salaries yet.
Sure, okay. France?
I continue learning and hearing and liking what I hear. Nothing really that I can add of value, except that people must put a guard to the sharpest tool out there, their tongue. If people listen more, then maybe they won't put the foot in their own door, so to speak, that people see what they say. So I tend to prefer to listen. And when everybody else has made all the mistakes in life, then I come back and I'll win the day of thing. So I prefer to stay silent and then rather share knowledge than share in the beginning how stupid I actually am.
Great, thanks, Franz. Yeah, there's a saying that that is, you know, those who talk never learn, and those who listen always do. So, you know, wisdom comes from listening, not from talking. So, thanks for that, Guy. You want to take up there?
Thank you. Moving forward, I'm going to try and get one or two youngsters in their 30s or so to come and join the odd session, because I think maybe they would give a different perspective of the word criticism, etc., because we've all got grey hair and most of us have been there or done that in one way or the other, and we're still learning. But it'd be interesting to get some young people's input on some of these discussions, because we're going to be dealing with a lot of them, I suppose, over the next period of time. But I enjoy the insights, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Great, thanks, Guy. Ian?
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, Jasper and Lee, please understand I'm not an expert on the Bible, but they say something about the weak or the meek shall inherit the earth. So if I use that in context with what we're talking about, I think that the entrepreneur is going to come out of this a lot sharper and a lot quicker in their ability to react than these big corporates. If you talked about Discovery, I think they're going to struggle to find some sort of balance in terms of how they're now going to interact. And I think the entrepreneurs are going to be a lot more flexible and a lot more adaptable in the weeks ahead.
Great, thanks, Ian. Herman, a wrap up from you.
Yeah, thanks again for a very inspiring conversation. I prefer to see a review, and you will hear me in future again talking about it. And there we talk about the two selves we have within us, which is the present self and the future self. And looking back to the introductory kind of context of criticism, in order for me to build the future self, constructive criticism can help me there. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Herman.
Ivan, sorry, one question. Steve made a remark earlier about, have you got a LinkedIn group around that?
Trevor and Lee are publishing quite regularly on LinkedIn. So if you connected to Trevor and Lee on LinkedIn, you'll definitely see the articles and the things being published.
Is it? I've requested to connect with them, but I haven't had a response yet.
Okay,
Thanks.
well, I'll have to criticize them for that and make sure that they connect. Great. Jasper, last word from you.
I'm going to criticize him. He must read his responses. I accepted him yesterday. Were you talking to me? Sorry, I was talking over you, Ivan.
It's fine. I want to let Jasper Jasper and Teller have a last word, and I'll come back to you, Trev. Jasper?
I want to unmute my. There we are.
There you go.
Yes, I think Guy keeps referring to the grey hair and some with no hair. And I think by the time we get to our age, you're pretty much set in your ways. And the picture of looking at yourself in the mirror, you couldn't care what you look like because you've seen yourself so often in the mirror. But every now and then, so criticism is almost someone else just holding up a mirror and saying, but listen, there's egg on your face, or there's this, or there's that. So maybe that's an analogy that I'm taking out of today. But I also agree with the fact that as an entrepreneur, you already had to, by this time in your life, deal with a lot of so-called people who differ from you. And then you had to filter and take what you could out of it. But once you have set your heart on going with something, there's very little that's going to stop you. And that's what makes us good. So yeah, that's my contribution.
Right, thanks, Jasper. Sela, like a wrap up from you?
Yes, for me, if we're really answering what it is we do when confronted with criticism, I think it always goes back to that primary principle of know thyself. I think if you know yourself, you are comfortable in your own skin, you should be able to always move forward. And definitely as entrepreneurs, we answer that call every single day. Do you know yourself? Every single challenge that we make in business has to do with how honest we are with ourselves. Because behind that criticism, oftentimes there is the truth. That's why it hurts sometimes, because it's touching on a nerve that it's actually true. So you do take it, but you deal with it. You know yourself. You must grow yourself at the end of the day. And if you can't take that and use it to grow yourself, then it's just somebody that said something to you, and that doesn't, somebody that just criticizes without any point, without any positive impact, without any action of what we do now moving forward, then that doesn't even, have to matter to you. But it will matter if it's something that you feel, hey, it's really touching me, it's really hurting me somewhere. It means there's some truth to it. Confront the truth. Always be honest with yourself. If you know yourself, you're honest with yourself. Then when other people tell you that their own truth, it doesn't hurt the truth that you hold about yourself,
Great,
Blessings,
thanks.
everyone.
Great, thanks, Trevor. Do you want to wrap up from your side, and then I'll hand back to Lee to close off?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm so excited about the quality of individual that's already on this little daily interaction. And always, I'm just going to put the challenge out in front of you on a daily basis. Are we leading the way, or are we following, is what I asked yesterday. And as I was doing my final set of bricks, Lee, you will know that I'm finished my brick lane and I'm ready. I'm spending the whole day on laptop, just getting behind all the stuff that I've got to deliver to you. But at the back of my mind is, okay, guys, we're sitting here, we're all professionals, independents, and I think at the back of our minds, well, at the back of my mind all the time is, how do we take what we're experimenting with here and convert that into great business opportunities? So that's what's mulling around in my mind all the time. And if you can help me with things that you see or things that we can do collectively, that's going to give me fantastic value. And I hope if I come up with something, I'd like to share that with you, so that at the end of this 21-day period, we've actually got a new arrow in our quiver. So I just want to put that challenge in front of you all the time. How do we take this and generate revenue out of billions of people out there? I'm laying the challenge down.
Great, thanks, Trev. Lee, do you want to pick up and wrap up?
Yeah, so what I will send to you via email, just prompted from this discussion. You know, Stella, I was deeply impacted by your metaphor of language and learning language. For those of you who weren't in that discussion, we were talking about how when you learn a new language, and it doesn't have to be a specific language like English or Zulu, it could be the language of technology, it could be the language of playing an instrument or learning to cook, and how that you know, shifts your mind and can put you in a different frame of mind. And you, again, we were talking today about if you know yourself and are honest with yourself. So I'm actually going to be sending a link to my blog that I wrote last night, which is a very honest, making myself vulnerable reflection on the language that I'm learning of digital marketing and this sort of stop and start process. So it's my reflection on some of the things that I've been picking up from this platform and looking back at myself. So I'll send that to you so you can maybe comment on that. I'm also going to send a recommendation of a book written by Sheila Heen called Thanks for the Feedback, and a summary that I've written of that book. That really helps us to get into our mind that it's actually the value of criticism is not the person who's doing the criticism or giving the feedback. It's we who receive it that actually have the power as to what we do with it. So I'll send that link as well. And then I'll also put together another set of slides to prompt our discussion tomorrow.
Great, fantastically. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody. Great chat this morning. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock again. So have a great day.